Pleasant greetings, y'all. Proud Filipina Charm Zespina here. For today's presentation, we'll feature a sidewalk screenplay / modern novelist who does 60-second life stories of anybody who has the time to share things and tales about himself or herself. And then we meet an adaptive skater who uses a wheelchair instead of the traditional skateboard to inspire little boys and girls rise above their fears. And lastly, a young Afro-American finds fulfillment and achievement in sketching and illustrations. This all summed up in today's VOA Connects, offering creativity and courage.
Folks tell me about divorce, mental illness. I'm like totally open to them. I'm not judging them.
The lady whose chair I tried said to me, a wheelchair is just a tool. And that made sense to me. It's just a tool.
Artwork was a therapy for me in prison, but for you it may be something else. We all have a gift. We all have a talent. Find out what your talent and your gift is and embrace it wholeheartedly.
Are you ready for your story? So many people just rush by. They're in a rush. Their head is lost in their thoughts. I think it's kind of Zen. It's, you know, be here now. Let's do this. Let's play. Why not? So I was an editor in Chicago at the American Bar Association. I always had a sense of adventure. For Halloween, one night I was lying in bed thinking about it, and I went, I think I can do this. In April of 1983, I took my typewriter onto the street on Michigan Avenue, and as I'm doing this, I'm thinking, this is a big mistake. I was starting to feel very embarrassed and nervous. So I sit down, I put the little sign, you know, 60-second novel. Sir, would you like a story? Miss, would you like a story? And everybody's ignoring me. And then a older woman came over and said, what are you doing? I will have a story. And I just talked to her for a minute. And I wrote just a few sentences. I pull it out of the typewriter and there's like 20 people around me. And I read it to her. Everybody claps. And I'm like, what just happened? And I did it for a couple hours and I made like $50. And I thought, wow, this is, people like this. What did I just invent? I was from the New York area. I said, let me go back to New York for a weekend and write stories. And I went to New York and I wrote stories for 2 days and I made like $500. And I said, I am out of here with this job. So I quit my job. My boss told me, Dan, don't do this. This is a mistake. I was like, thank you for the, you know, thank you, but I'm going to give it a shot. I moved to New York and never looked back. You know, sometimes I think I'm crazy. I mean, I've done it now for 38 years. I wear a yellow sport coat and a yellow bow tie and a yellow hat. They're like, he must be some kind of performer. Wow, what is this? So when I started, people were still using typewriters. Some people were still using typewriters. In 1983, very few people had a computer. So to have a typewriter was no big deal. It's turned into this retro typewriter, and I'm going to just do this old-fashioned thing called talking. You know, have a conversation, listen. What I'm doing is interacting with the person, talking with them, trying to get a sense of them, and then writing something for them. And those are selected stories that also make sense to other people. It's just for that person. So I kind of think it's like a unique. Some people are lonely. I definitely get people who I feel like I'm the first person they've had a real conversation with in years. Folks tell me about divorce, mental illness. I'm like totally open to them. I'm not judging them. I am there to write their story. I did it 4 years. But pretty soon I got into the whole party and event where people were paying me a lot of money to show up and do the stories. That's how I've been able to buy a house. At private parties, big corporate events, birthday parties, all that kind of thing. And it was actually seeming kind of dull and stupid. Like I began to feel, like what am I doing here? Yeah, like I really missed doing it for ordinary people, and I met my wife doing a 60-second novel for her.
He was really handsome and he had like freckles, and then he also asked me about their lives and wrote me a story that was really comforting. It said, one day Alice will be walking by the ocean, will come a man. It's later that when he wrote that story, we were sitting at Rye Playland near the ocean, near the beach, Sound. And we've been on a long journey together, 30 years of marriage. Realized that other people were talking about him as odd that he was sitting on the street doing it, but he's also a New York Times writer and a science writer. I'm proud of him.
It's not a photograph of a person. It's my creative interpretation. Yes, it's pretty insane that there's 50,000 little life stories. It is. With COVID then, because like more than a year went by, I would like to do it on the street again, to the original idea, which was to be with ordinary people. When I did it on the street, it's my world. I've invented it. For the individual person, I think people just like this idea that there's someone there listening and waiting. Why aren't there writers everywhere sitting on the street ready to tell people's life stories?
So the thing about me is I don't really see the coping. So it takes me a little bit to drop in. I need to feel it.
And dropping meaning just
Meaning you'll see me do a wheelie, and then I bring my back wheels all the way up to this is the coping before I drop in, which is pushing myself into the bowl. So I need to feel it in my body before I can go in. I kept on having the vertigo, and things would happen, like my hands started not functioning well, and I was doing sculpture, and I couldn't hold the tools, and I was dropping them on my feet, and those are really sharp. Finally, I'm diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So your brain does not communicate properly with, let's say, your eyes or your legs or anything else. So the lady whose chair I tried said to me, a wheelchair is just a tool. And that made sense to me. It's just a tool. And when I tell you that it took me probably a half an hour to walk a block, and now I can get around just like everybody else. A wheelchair improved the quality of my life, and it gave me a sport. It is like, I'm gonna cry. It just, that moment was one of the best of my life. It feels like you're flying when you do these sport is actually called wheelchair motocross. These chairs are custom made for the sport. I tend to identify as a skateboarder because for me it's about the community. I picked up skateboarding at age 55. Because you have a wheelchair, it doesn't mean you can't do an extreme sport. I just want people to see when I'm out there that this is possible. And it's possible at 17, it's possible at 20, it's possible at 30, and darn it, it's possible at 60. Go, Charlie, go! Come on, get that tie out! This is a girls' skate day. Wow. It's a girls' skate session. The women who started it, Anna and Sandy, asked if I would come, and it's like I just fell in love because I love kids. I wasn't able to have them, so I feel like every kid in the world is mine, and that's boys and girls. But the girls are special. As girls, well, I can only speak from my experience. I was told, you know, you don't get dirty, you don't do this, you don't do that, but I was the kind of girl who did. And nowadays, girls are not only allowed to come out and shred, but they're also allowed to be beautiful doing it. And we can get hurt, and we can do extreme sports, and we can still be beautiful at the end of the day. These girls need somebody besides their parents to tell them how awesome they are, and to be by their side, and just love on them. And I feel like I'm kind of a grandma figure, you know, the old lady in the wheelchair at the skate park. So you know how when you stand at the top of things, they look really big? Like when you were standing at the top of the big bowl and you didn't want to go in. So anytime you think that something is way over your head, it's because you're looking at it from a different perspective. Sometimes it's like in life, you look at things from a different perspective. You come down to the bottom of it and look up and you think, look, it's probably your height. It's maybe what? A couple inches over your head? Of course, women need to help women. Girls need to start helping girls, and we need to do it at a young age. And me just kind of being here and kind of being out in the field and asking one girl to help another is how it starts. And then you see them later on helping each other, and it becomes pretty magical. Can you stand up? You okay? That was a nice fall, and that was a really good try. I'm proud of you.
Well, I've been given many nicknames when I was in prison. You know, most of the inmates called me the prison Picasso, you know, and they kind of ran with that because they would see me drawing all day long. I drew up to 10 hours a day, every day, and I never took a day off. I was arrested at 21 years old. I was hanging out at a popular hangout in Buffalo, New York, a restaurant, and a shooting occurred. I took off, ran to my car, and shortly thereafter I was arrested and taken into custody and questioned. I was charged with shooting 3 people, and within days, 8 people came forward to clear me of the crime, and the person responsible confessed to the crime. All of those witnesses and the confession was disregarded. I was found guilty of all charges, given a 39-year life sentence. I found myself in Attica Correctional Facility, and I didn't know what to do. And all I was asking myself was, how are you going to survive this? You know, who's going to help you? Who's going to believe that you're innocent of this crime? You know, I had written numerous letters, hundreds of letters, and all of them were ignored. And you know, I had to make a choice, a conscious decision, you know, if I wanted to live or if I wanted to die. And when I watched the movie Shawshank Redemption, the main character had 2 choices. Was he was innocent for the crime he was in jail for? Get busy living or get busy dying. This is a famous quote, and that kind of resonated in my spirit. And it wasn't until my uncle told me, hey, he said, hey, maybe you need to start drawing again, because if you can reclaim your talent, you can reclaim your life. And I had lost all my appeals. I had no hope to, regain my freedom because I didn't have any help. He sent me some colored pencils and some paper, and I started drawing after that. I first started drawing at the age of about 4 years old. And my grammar school art teacher, Mrs. Ross, she took, her time to kind of mold me and take my talent to another level. And she got me into performing arts in the 8th grade, which I went all the way to my senior year. And so art was always in my spirit, is what I liked to do most.
I'd heard of him by reputation because I have a number of other clients in Attica, and they knew him. And they just knew him to be a great guy. He was kind of a mentor for some of the younger guys. He had a lot of street cred when he went in. So when he would, say things or describe things, people put some stock in it. And he was kind of almost a guidance counselor for some of the others. And they would come and he would draw 8 or 10 hours a day. They'd come just watch him draw. And it's almost like meditation, I think. But really, his art was one of the keys to obtaining his release. I
remember drawing a rose, and I was kind of rusty because I hadn't drawn in so many years. And the inmates loved the rose. They all was like, wow, that is such a beautiful rose. And so that gave me the inspiration to keep drawing. Before I started drawing the golf courses, I drew greeting cards. And I drew over 500 greeting cards over a 15-year period. These are all hand-drawn with colored pencils. The warden and the rest of the staff, they knew me as this artist that whenever they walked by, the area, the housing area, they would see me drawing. So this is what everybody had come to know me to do with my time. So one day the warden comes in. He says, hey, Valentino, I'm going to be retiring in a couple months. Before I leave, could you draw my favorite golf hole? I says, I don't know anything about golf. I'm a black kid from the inner city, but bring the picture in. And it was the 12th hole of Augusta. The warden brought the picture in. I drew it for him. He loved it. That was supposed to be the end of it. And my neighbor says, hey, Valentine, you should draw more golf holes. I said, I'm not going to draw more golf holes. I know nothing about the sport. He forced it on me and brought me some old Golf Digest magazines, tossed them on my bed. He said, hey, you might find some interesting golf courses to draw. And after that, I started drawing golf courses every day, never stopped. And after about 6 months, I had about 40 drawings, 40 golf drawings. And I started reading the columns in the golf magazine. And I came across a column called Golf Saved My Life by Max Adler in Golf Digest. So I took a chance and I took one of the drawings and I sent it to the Golf Digest magazine. And I said, hey, Max, I said, this is what's going on with me. I'm in prison for a crime I didn't commit. I have all of this evidence, but I don't have, no help or no support.
Because of his drawing and his artwork, he came to the attention of Golf Digest. And they launched on to this reinvestigation of the case, which they'd never done before, and which resulted in a wonderful article in Golf Digest, which in sort of an indictment of the criminal justice system was the best encapsulation of the case. There was also a student investigation from Georgetown involved, and they also interviewed witnesses and obtained other information. All of it contributed.
So 5 years go by, and Georgetown gets involved. Marty Tankcliffe, who was a paralegal working on my case years earlier, had now become a Georgetown adjunct professor. And so his students decided that they wanted to use my case as a class project and do a documentary. This is the 12th hole of Augusta. This is the most famous, iconic hole in golf. This is the one that I gave to the warden. I gave it to him as a gift. A lot of people look at my work and they say painting, 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 but these are all pencil drawings. Everything I do is a color pencil drawing, so it takes many, many hours to layer so many colors on top of each other to give it that paint look, you know, to give it that photographic paint look. That's the goal. And I love it when people say painting because it's a compliment. Well, the first thing I do is I have to like the course. It has to be a golf course that, you know, resonates with me and it captures my spirit. And then after that, I decide what color I'm going to do this course. Because I might want to do it in grays, or I might want to do it in reds, or I might want to do it in your traditional green golf course. You know, sometimes you want to be artistic. So I'll lay out all the colors. I'll take the color pencils, you know, and I'll pick which ones I believe I want to draw the golf course in. And then I may take a yellow and put a yellow under the green, and then use a darker green. So it's many layers to what I do in order to get this effect. I did an interview with HBO, which Michelle Obama saw, and it captured her attention, and she reached out to buy a piece of golf art for Barack Obama for Christmas. The Instagram post of a Barack Obama with the drawing that I drew was just awesome. I mean, it was the greatest feeling in the world. I've played golf about 10 times since I've been released from prison. I've been to the Masters. I've met Tiger Woods, Jack Nicklaus, and but I'm no good. I mean, I've tried, I've taken lessons, and I'm awful. But, you know, it's fun to do.
Despite his circumstances, he's one of the most positive people I've ever met. He is unrelentingly, aggressively positive and refuses to be otherwise, which I think has saved him. It's why he's notable today. You know, I don't know anyone else that has gotten out after that period of wrongful incarceration, and maybe there are people, I just haven't had contact with them, who don't have some bitterness and some anger, but he legitimately doesn't. And he is always looking to the next opportunity.
I make my living doing commissions. You know, I have a show called Drawing and Talk with Me, where I draw for just regular people, and I teach them how to draw, and we talk about their careers, we talk about life, okay? So I've drawn with, you know, kids, policemen, school teachers, 20 people that has Parkinson's disease. I started a foundation called The Art of Freedom to fight against wrongful conviction and sentencing guidelines in America, okay? Which is the reason why we have mass incarceration, because our sentencing guidelines are too harsh and excessive, and it violates our 8th Amendment against cruel and unusual punishment. So what I've tried to do is connect people with lawyers, good lawyers, and to give them the direction that they should take with the issues that they have. Jack Nicklaus, the greatest golfer of all time, when he met me, he said I reminded him of Nelson Mandela because of my spirit, you know, because I'm not bitter, I'm not angry. You know, in life, we're all going to be tested with something, and we don't get to decide the test. Artwork was a therapy for me in prison, but for you it may be something else. We all have a gift. We all have a talent. Find out what your talent and your gift is, you know, and embrace it wholeheartedly. Because this is what keeps the spirit alive in this world. It's a lot of challenges, and you need something to keep that spirit going.
And that's a wrap for this week. We hope you came out a tad more enlightened as much as we did. We look forward to you joining us again next time for another Inside Story offering. And here's reminding you all to work hard and dream big. Count those blessings and be kind, and catch the news right here on PTV. This has been Sharm Zespina for Stories from the Grid.